everyone. Morning. Can you hear
Morning,
me?
sir.
Yun.
Good morning po.
Okay, let's start. Good morning everyone. Medyo marami tayong for this second long exam. 10 chapters ata siguro yung or 8 chapters ata yung covered ni ma'am. So what we'll be discussing today is chapter 6 to 10 yung kinover ni ma'am. Hindi naman lahat. This has to do with supplier and producer behavior.
Good morning po.
Morning. Okay, sige, let's start. Medyo mahaba-haba yung discussion ng medyo mahaba yung coverage pero yung concepts konti lang naman. Okay. First, let's start with production function. This was discussed by ma'am, no? The concept is that our output, in order for firms to produce an output, it has an input. So output is just a function of your, in this case, labor, your capital, and your land. Okay, A is considered here as land. Okay, so any increases in the inputs would cause increases in the output. However, okay, we have this concept of law of diminishing returns. What is the law of diminishing returns? It says that total product or total output will increase on a decreasing rate. As you increase an input and holding other inputs constant. Okay, so yun yung law of diminishing returns. So let's say, for example, as you increase your labor while holding your capital and land constant, okay, total product or total output would increase, but on a decreasing rate. So this tells us that there is a decreasing marginal product of land or labor in our case. Okay, so you have your decreasing marginal products of labor, decreasing marginal products of capital, decreasing marginal products of land. Okay, so now what if we increase all inputs? When we increase all inputs, okay, we refer now to returns to scale. Okay, returns to scale could be constant, increasing, or decreasing. Okay, an example of a constant return to scale is that when you increase all inputs by 10%, output will also increase by 10%. Okay, an example of an increasing returns to scale is that, again, increase all inputs by 10% and output would increase by more than 10%. Okay, decreasing naman is again, increase your inputs, all your inputs by 10%, and the resulting output is less than the 10% increase in your inputs. Okay, that's how yung difference lang ng constant returns to scale, increasing returns to scale, and decreasing returns to scale. Okay, now let's proceed with the concept of how does the firm determine its quantity with respect to different combinations of inputs. Okay, so we deal with the concept of isoquants. Okay, so I think you already know this. Na isoquants is a locus of points that shows different combinations of inputs that produce the same level of output. Okay, so parang counterpart nito sa consumer behavior is what you call the indifference curves. Okay, so isoquants, wait lang, right here. So suppose this is land. Wait lang, medyo something's wrong. That's land. Oops. So let this be labor. Okay, so this is your isoquant. Let's say, for example, this would give you a total Q of, hindi na total Q. let's have total products, okay, of 300. Okay, the difference between the isoquant in the indifference curve is that your isoquant in the perspective of a supplier, it has a cardinal property. Okay, meaning you know what are the specific values of each isoquant. Okay, so let's say for example you have another isoquant here. This would produce a total product of 400. Okay, so that is so different values, different combinations of land and labor will give you the same level of output. Let's say, for example, at point A, okay, more land than labor, but 300 product, okay, total product. At point B, again, more labor, but less land, but the same output, level of output. That is your isoquant. Okay, now, what is the slope of our isoquant? The slope is simply, okay, sige, ayan natin para makita. Yeah, so the slope is simply the change in B, the change in labor, okay, times the marginal product of labor, L, labor L, para ano na lang. Yeah, times the marginal product of labor, okay, plus, okay, on the same isoquant, the change in your land times the marginal product of land should be equal to 0. Okay, so this would give you change in L, MPL plus, equal to the negative of change in land times marginal product of land. The slope is simply change in labor over change in land. Okay, change in L over change in A. So MPA over MPL. Okay. Question. So this is the slope. The marginal product of yung sa ano ata sa book ni ma'am, this is labor and this is land. Nabaliktad lang natin. So, okay. So pero again, regardless of the arrangement of your x-axis and y-axis, it should this condition follows. Okay. Okay. Now, so that is the slope of your isoquants. It tells you different combinations of inputs that provide the same level of output. Now, for a supplier, you would most likely aim for higher isoquants. No, isoquants meaning higher isoquants meaning the farther away from the point of origin, higher yung output. However, in the same way as consumers have this concept of budget line, may concept din ang producers with isocost. Okay, with every corresponding production, merong corresponding na cost. Okay, so dito natin sulat. Di ba na lang na kulay? Oops, sige, okay na yan. So you will have, again, you will have land here, and then you will have labor here. Okay, so the isocost is simply the price of land, okay, times labor, the price of labor times the quantity of labor plus the price of land, which is rent, times the amount of land that you require. That should give you your total cost. Okay, this is familiar, right? Same as yung budget line. Okay, so what is the intercept here? That is TC over PL. Okay, total cost over PL. That is, if A is 0, okay, the amount of labor here is TC over PL. Right? On this side naman, okay, the intercept here is if L is 0, okay, then that would give you TC over PA. Okay, so you just simply connect the two dots. Okay, let's assume that's a straight line, and this is your isocost. Okay, and the isocost corresponding to your total cost. Equation, total cost equation. Okay, so what is the slope of this? Again, the slope, that is just simply rise over run. Okay, so that's TC over PL divided by, okay, TC over PA. And that should give you PA over PL. Right? So that is the slope. Slope of your isocost line. Okay, now what is rule number 2? The rule number 2 states that optimum is achieved when the marginal product of each unit per unit cost are equal. So that should give you optimality requires MPA over MPL equal to the slope of your isocost line. So the slope of your isoquant should intersect or equal to the slope of your isocost. So PA over PL. Again, this is rule number 2. This is always the case. Okay, so let's move to our whiteboard. Okay, so yeah, okay, again, this is land and this is labor. Okay, again, let's start with our isocost. This is TC over PA. This is TC over PL. Okay, let's have another one. Let's assume that this is and that is our isoquant 1. Okay, this be total product equal to 300. Okay, let's have another one. And PP equals to 250. Okay, so we have this be A, B, and C. Okay, now the question again is where is the optimum point, or what is the optimal point for this case, for this supplier? Okay, anyone would like to answer?
Po, sir.
Sige. Sino yun?
Si Zandra po, sir. Point B
Okay.
po.
Okay, why is it point B?
Kasi po yan po yung optimum na maproproduce po na may combination of land and labor po, sir. Na na-reach din po sa yung isoquant na 300 po yung total na total product po.
Okay, so if in this case, no, that's correct. Point A and C, although they have the same slope as the isocost, they have lower production, 250. But point B satisfies the isocost line na slope at point B, and also it has higher total product. So in this case, so the aim always of the firm is to maximize its profit. Okay, that the pie total profit, which is just equal to your total revenue minus your total cost. Okay, so we take note that TR is price times Q, and TC is the price of your inputs. Okay, price of inputs times their corresponding quantity of inputs. Okay, this one corresponds to your, again, total cost, right? However, PQ corresponds to your, dito pumapasok yung isoquant. Okay? So, ang tinitingnan ng firm is that hindi lang siya tumitingin sa cost. Okay? Hindi lang siya tumitingin sa ISO cost niya. But tumitingin din siya sa ISO quant niya. Kasi the higher the output, the higher the total revenue. Okay? So, again, also, by rule number one, okay, anong rule number one? The rule number one in terms of scale is that the marginal benefit should equal to the marginal cost. So in this case, for firms who are trying to maximize its profit, it should follow that MR be equal to MC. Okay, so what is applied here is rule 1 and rule number 2. Sa rule number 2, yun yung MPA over the price of A be equal to the MPL over the price of L. Okay, rule number 1 and rule number 1, dito siya pumapasok in maximizing your profit. Okay, rule number 2, dito siya pumapasok on determining how much output how much inputs are you going to employ for a specific to a specific total product or total. Okay, questions? None. Ay, stop share ako. Sorry. Okay, let's proceed. Now, let's punta tayo dito sa analysis of cost. Since ito yung mostly pinag-uusapan, no? Sa analysis of cost. Okay, so again, sinulat ko lang dito para mas madali, no? Total cost is simply your total fixed cost. Total fixed cost, these are your overhead costs. Okay, these are costs that is independent of your output. Okay, total fixed cost is independent of your output. Total variable cost is a cost that is dependent on the level of output that you're going to produce. Okay, so sige. So as drawn kanina, pinakita ni ma'am. Okay, so let's have this output here. And then let this be your cost. Your cost would be your total, your TFC, and your TVC. So since your total fixed cost is independent of the level of output, okay, yan. This is your TFC. Okay, hanap tayo ng ibang kulay. Okay, now how about our TVC? Okay, since TFC plus TVC is your total cost, so yung distance lang, vertical distance lang ni, horizontal distance lang ni total cost and ni TFC yung kailangan natin mapakita. We just take note that, okay, usually the total cost, okay, yung total cost mo is increasing on a decreasing rate. Okay, increasing, what does that mean? Increasing on a decreasing rate. So it at start, it looks like paakyat, yan, a curve. But then, it reaches a point wherein it is now increasing on an increasing rate. So, merong konting inflection point, then it starts to go up. That is your TC. Okay? What is the, tawag dito? What might cause the change in the slope? Change in the slope, yung pag-change, yung may inflection point, that is driven by your your decreasing marginal cost and then increasing marginal cost, as well as decreasing average cost and then increasing average cost. And you will see later, okay? Here, light pink. Okay, the difference, the horizontal difference is your TVC. Okay, now punta tayo sa average. Punta tayo sa average and marginal cost. Okay, here. Okay, so you have your marginals and average. Okay, now what do you, again, this is your output again. Okay, now what do you expect kung anong itsura ng yung AFC? Okay, what should we expect with the shape of our AFC? It should be downward sloping.
Facing downward po.
Yeah, it's downward sloping because since independent siya sa, di ba, AFC is AC is simply TC over Q, right? And then since TC is TFC plus TVC, that's just simply TFC over Q plus TVC over Q. Okay, and this is your AFC, and this is your ABC. And since your total fixed cost is independent of quantity, okay, as quantity increases, okay, your average fixed cost decreases. So suppose at this point, okay, ganyan, tapos it starts to go down. That is your AFC. Okay. Okay, now how about your AVC? How about your
U-shaped
AVC?
curve po, sir.
Yeah, it's a U-shaped curve. Wait lang ha, i-arrange ko lang tong. Medyo, sige, okay na siguro yan. Okay, so let's start here. Yeah, and it starts to go up. And let that be your AVC. Okay. Okay. Now, what is our AC? Our AC is simply AFC plus AVC. So you just add these two. Okay. Okay, let's assume that this part yan, and then yeah. Okay. Let that be your AC. Okay, now how about our MC? Again, this is rule number, if I'm not really can't memorize siguro rule number 8 or 9, no? Yung sa Baumol na chapter. Our MC, okay, our MC, okay. So dito, MC is the change in TC over the change in Q, right? That's MC. But since TC is equal to TFC over TVC, that should give you change in TFC over the change in Q plus the change in TVC over the change in Q. What is this? Change in TFC over change in Q. This is 0. Hence, our marginal cost is just simply our marginal variable cost. Okay, hence here. So you have MC simply MVC. Okay, so what is, okay, ang general rule is that, okay, general rule as we have discussed in the Baumol chapter is that at the point of wherein your average variable cost, our average cost is at minimum, is the point also wherein MC intersects at that point. Okay, at that point, again, ulitin ko na lang. Well, at the point wherein MC is equal to AC is the point wherein your AC is at its minimum. Right? And since MC is just equal to AVC, it should follow as well that the point wherein your MC is equal to your MVC is also the point wherein your MVC is at its minimum. Okay? So, question, saan magsa-start si MC? Saan siya sa vertical na line na to? Okay, sabi. Saan yung origin ni MC?
Sa AVC po, sir.
Right, sa AVC. That's correct. Okay, so we'll start here. Medyo dapat ibaba ko lang yung horizontal pero just never mind na lang. So, okay, start here and then it's its minimum and then goes up and goes up. That is your MC. Okay, it hits the point wherein your AVC is at its minimum and also the point wherein your AC is at its minimum. Okay, questions? Okay, now, so you now have the concept of how your costs are analyzed. Okay, now what about short run versus long run costs? Okay, ang sinasabi lang talaga dito is that in the short run, you have inputs or costs that are fixed. Okay, the presence of fixed costs happens only in the short run. Okay, fixed costs, yeah. However, in the long run, okay, given that firms might be able to change their fixed equipment, pwede nilang palitan or they can improve it over time. Okay, almost everything are now variable. So, in the short run, all are merong at least one fixed cost. Okay, in the long run, all costs are now variable. Okay, and in fact, yung sinabi nga ni ma'am, in the long run as well, you will have zero profits. Okay, the industry will have zero profits. Okay, now, any questions on costs? Wala? Okay, we just remember when MC is below AC, okay, when MC is below AC, okay, AC is falling. Okay, when MC is above AC, AC is rising. And at the point wherein MC is equal to AC, okay, is also the point wherein AC is at its minimum. Okay, any questions? Okay, now let's move to how do we derive our supply curve. Okay, clear on drawings. Okay, how do we derive our supply curve? So the discussion ni ma'am starts with comparing the setting of a perfectly competitive market. Okay, so if you have a perfectly competitive market, okay, ano yung mga characteristics nito? You have identical goods, right? You have identical goods. Okay? Ano pa? You have atomistic firms. Right, many firms, meaning your firms are atomistic. Okay, atomistic firms. If the firms are atomistic, then it follows that they are price takers. Okay? Another assumption for this is that all firms are profit maximizers. Okay? Maximizers. Okay. Now, so ang the discussion starts with what is the difference between the perspective of a individual firm versus the industry. Okay, we know that in the industry setting, okay, price and this quantity. In the industry setting, okay, you have an upward sloping supply curve and a downward sloping demand curve. Right, this is the industry. Okay, so it faces price, let that be P star, and then Q star. Okay. However, if you're a single firm, an atomistic firm, sobrang liit mo that you can't affect price but only take it as given, okay, you are most likely, you would most likely just follow the price of the market. Kasi price taker ka, di ba? Okay, so, sorry. Okay. 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 You would most likely just copy the price that is set by the market. And that is just how your demand is. Okay. A firm in a perfectly competitive market would face a demand curve that is perfectly elastic. Kasi once once the firm starts to increase the price, okay, lahat ng, well, all other firms have the same price as P-Star, okay, kung isang firm lang siya that he tries to increase his price by siguro 1 centavo lang, all individuals, all the buyers would shift to other firms. Okay? And he would incur losses. Okay? So yun yung case for a firm in a perfectly competitive market. He is facing a demand curve that is horizontal or perfectly elastic. Okay? And we all already know that demand corresponds to average revenue, right? Okay. However, in this case as well, okay, since the demand, okay, ganito na lang. If the firm tries to increase one more unit, okay, he tries to sell one more unit of the good, how much would be the marginal revenue of the firm? Anyone? Sige, suppose, okay, suppose at Q1, okay, Q1. Suppose currently nagsasell siya ng Q1 at the price P-Star. What if he tries to, the firm would try to produce at Q2? What would be the marginal revenue of the firm? Anyone? What is the revenue? Sige, Raisa. What is the marginal revenue of the firm?
Sir, from what I understand po from Professor Monsot, it would just be the same. Kasi po,
What would be the same?
yung MR po.
Yeah, what is the value of the MR?
Parang sabi po niya kanina, it's just the AR lang din po. The MR is also the AR.
Which is equal to the price.
Yes po.
Right, okay. So nakuha nyo? MR equal to P. Right? So since the firm is facing a horizontal demand curve, any increases in price, okay, ang marginal revenue lang nun is the price itself. Right? Nakuha? So ikaw, let's say for example, I am currently producing 10 units of my product and I want to increase it to 11. What is the marginal revenue of that? It's just equal to the price times the additional unit. Right? Hence, in this case, for a perfectly competitive firm, he is facing yung price niya is equal to demand and is equal to its average revenue as well as its marginal revenue. Okay? Okay. Natin to. Up. Yan. Yan. Okay. Titip muna natin yan sila. Okay. Now, let's move with our cost. So, you have your price and then you have your cost. Cost here. Okay? Okay. Okay, so let's start with our mas madaling. Sige, let's start with our AC. AC na lang siguro. Magkulay. Okay. Start with our AC. Yeah. AC. Okay. Then we'll have our AVC para kumpleto yung picture. Ito po lang. Or ABC. Ayan, ABC. And then let's have our MC. Yeah. Okay, that's our MC. Okay. Okay. Now, what is the profit max condition? Okay. Di ba alam natin pi, which is our profit, is TR, right? Minus TC. Right? By rule number 1, okay, optimality requires that MR be equal to MC. Right? So at the point of optimality, okay, MR, which is your demand curve, which is your AR, which is your price, should be equal to MC. Okay. So that is at this point. Okay, let that be Q star 1 of firm 1. Okay. So that's the optimal output, okay, of firm 1. Firm 1 na lang to para localize. Firm 1, okay, of firm 1 that would generate its optimal profit. Okay? Okay. Now, how do we derive our supply curve? What is then the supply curve of the firm? In order for us to do that, we must consider first what is the shutdown rule, and what if the price of the industry would change. Okay, so you can see here, suppose P star, this is P star, right? Sorry, yan, P star increases to P prime. Okay, suppose P star increases to P prime. So let's say this is P prime. Yeah, that be P prime, and this is P prime. What is the new? Okay, what is the new condition? How much would the firm change its output? Again, MR should be equal to MC. So where is MC? MC is here. Here. Okay, so then go down, then you'll have Q1 prime. Okay, so now you have 2 points. Okay, you connect the 2 dots. Okay, yeah, yan na yung supply curve mo so far. What if the price would even go up? So sige, let's suppose P double prime. Pag P double prime, you draw another horizontal line, and then you get another point, and then you extend, right? So that's basically, so anything above the demand curve, the MC curve that is above the demand curve or the current market price on a perfectly competitive market is your supply curve. Pero ano yung tawag doon? Where should it start? Where should your supply curve start? It should start with the shutdown rule. Okay? And what is the shutdown rule? May nakaka-remember ba sa sinabi ni ma'am, what is the shutdown rule? So the shutdown rule is a point wherein, okay, erase ko lang muna to. Yes, Janelle, what is the shutdown rule?
When the production cost is greater than the fixed cost.
Right, that's right. So as long as the firm can cover its fixed costs, it must continue to produce. Okay, because it if it does not, mas higher yung cost na ini-incur niya. Compared to what compared to not having any production at all. So just that's basically saying is the point wherein your P is equal to your AVC. The shutdown rule is suppose, diba? The suppose P star, okay, from P star decreases to P double prime. Okay, so sorry, maliit yung na-draw ko pero kita pa ba? Kita pa ba? Let's have yellow. Suppose, okay, suppose at this point, okay, that be P double prime. This is P double prime. Okay. Okay. The shutdown rule says that as long as the price is above your AVC, okay, as long as the price is above your AVC, you should continue to produce. Okay. If since in that case you are covering your total fixed cost and a portion of your variable cost. Right? So the shutdown rule is the point wherein the price is equal to AVC. Okay. Again, and MC. The shutdown rule is that when your marginal cost is equal to your AVC as well as your price. That's the shutdown rule. Okay. Again, if the firm does not, okay, if the firm does not produce, even if it faces a price that is greater than its average fixed cost, okay, that then what the losses that he can incur, losses, okay, if Q is equal to 0, even if P is greater than AVC but less than AC, okay, but less than, ano ba yan? P is greater than AVC but P is less than AC is AFC plus a portion of your AVC. So the thing is that kung wala ka naman lang ipoproduce, you must minimize your losses as well. Okay? And the minimum loss that you can incur should be equal to your fixed cost. Right? Nakuha? So kung if you're incurring losses, you must minimize your losses as well. Okay? If you are not producing, even if the current market price is above your AVC but less than AC, then you would incur more losses. Kasi, okay, kasi tingnan nyo ha, if losses if Q is 0, AFC plus AVC. Right? Or basically, your fixed cost plus a portion. Your fixed cost plus a portion of your a percentage of your variable cost. But if your losses, okay, again, you copy that. If Q is positive, okay, if Q is positive, okay, your losses is only a percentage of your variable cost. Huh? Your losses, if you continue to produce, even if the price is greater than AVC but less than AC, okay, your losses would only be equal to your variable cost, which is lower than, okay, not producing at all and face your fixed costs and a portion of your variable cost. Nakuha? So in this case, so what is our supply curve? Our supply curve is simply the point wherein your AVC and your MC is at its minimum. Here. Yan. This is your supply curve. Any questions? So the supply curve is your MC that is above your AVC. Okay, questions? Okay na. Am I clear?
Yes
Okay.
po.
Okay, sige. Let's clear all drawings. How about economic surplus? I think this was clearly na discussed naman ni ma'am, no? Your economic surplus is simply, sorry for that. Okay, this is your demand, this is your supply. Again, your supply is your MC, your upward sloping MC that is above your AVC. Okay. Okay, so what is our, again, as a review, consumer surplus is this part. So that is your CS. And your producer surplus is this part, PS. Okay, so economic surplus is this two. Yan, yan sila. Yung CS plus, that is your economic surplus. Okay. And then I guess, nasabi na din ni ma'am what are the conditions for Pareto efficiency, and that should be MU equal to MC. And we also have this concept of imperfect competition where you have yung monopolistic competitions that so maraming firms pero differentiated ang products. Okay? So it could be many firms, as many as a perfectly competitive market, but you have differentiated products. That's monopolistic competition. Oligopoly naman is in a case wherein you have few firms, okay? Few firms, not necessarily differentiated, pero few firms because of increasing returns to scale. Okay? So yung, again, the review, increasing returns to scale is that as you increase your inputs, you're actually producing more. Hence, you are actually facing lesser cost. Okay, as you increase your production, you're actually incurring lesser cost relative to your increased production. That's the cause of oligopoly, yung economies of scale, yung increasing returns to scale. Yung monopoly naman, again pinakita naman ni ma'am, no, yung difference between the demand, industry demand, and then yung firm supply, firm cost, no? Sa monopoly in this case, that there is economies of scale as in the oligopoly. Okay. However, there are also barriers to entry. Barriers to entry that could be yung economic barriers. Yung example nun, very high cost of entry na kailangan sobrang laki ng investment mo, and you have your cost for advertisements. Okay. And another one is yung legal restrictions where you have your face patents, tariffs, and quotas. So yun yung an example of monopoly. Okay. We still have to discuss your discussion questions, but ano pa ba yung kailangan kong ano? Okay. So just take note. Sorry, medyo hindi ko alam kung anong unahin, pero wala kasing discussion class next week kasi merong reading break. But I just want to announce na walang class on November 2 pero magka-class si ma'am on November 4. So, yun. Then, next niyan, isang discussion class na lang tayo, then exam na. Tapos marami pa kasing ika-cover, so I'm trying to cover as much as I can. So we also have this concept of P should be equal to MR equal to MC. Okay, so this is the point of efficiency. Okay? Yung MU equals to MC, right? MU equal to MC. Ito yon. Okay? The Pareto efficiency case is that as whenever P is equal to MR and equal to MC, you are achieving efficiency. Hence, there is no waste. However, in cases of imperfect competition, okay, in cases of imperfect competition, yung firms, are now able to dictate the prices. Okay, so hence, it means that they are now facing a downward sloping demand curve instead of a horizontal curve. So are you required to attend the class on November 4? It is encouraged. Pero we just want, si ma'am kasi yung nag-decide na merong class pa rin on November 4. So it's really up to you. But we would really encourage you to attend. But if not, for some reasons, okay, meron namang recorded naman. So we will upload it. Okay. Yes, it is a reading break. Kaya wala tayong discussion class on November 2. But ma'am decided na magka-class siya on November 4 because marami pang masyadong kailangang i-cover. This is the decision of ma'am. If you have any violent reactions, you can email us and we will course it to ma'am. Yes, merong mga discussions na in-skip sa book. So just cover or study those that are discussed by ma'am. So I'm only, di ba, dun sa chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken, or 8, merong accounting topics doon na hindi na din-discuss ni ma'am and some other topics na hindi na din-discuss. So far, just focus on the concepts that are discussed in the lecture. Okay. So sorry. So for the sake of everyone, may nagtanong pala na mayroon kasing mga parts na hindi diniscuss ni ma'am. So yung coverage lang ba is yung diniscuss ni ma'am or yung lahat ng nasa book? So far, yung diniscuss lang ni ma'am. Okay. Any questions pa? For the concepts of imperfect competition and yung waste na resulting from the imperfect competition, let's discuss on the next discussion class, and that would be November 9. Okay? So, yun. Sige. Let's proceed muna sa ating mga discussion questions. Okay, we have 7 minutes. My question, yes, November 4 lang. November 4 lang yung merong pasok. Okay, now. Okay, let's start with discussion question number 1. Hindi to kasama sa binigay pero we can discuss this. Yes, we will give discussion questions this week, but extended yung deadline. So I'm still verifying kung next Thursday na ba siya ipapas or sa following discussion class na on Tuesday. So, but we will give discussion questions para kasi reading break naman, you can review them. Okay. I hope that is okay with you. Okay. Sige, let's proceed with our discussion question. First is that why are diamonds so much more expensive than water? Anyone from this class would like to answer? Why are diamonds? Sige. Are you raising your hand, Raisa?
Yes, po, sir. So,
Okay.
water is relatively less expensive compared to diamonds because water is very abundant. So, bumababa yung marginal utility ng nakukuha ng tao dun sa last drop ng tubig.
Mm-hmm. Compared to diamonds. Okay, so the reason why you're correct, Raisa, and the reason why diamonds are more expensive than water is not because of the utility that it gives, but more on comparing their marginal utilities. Okay, and because water is plenty, okay, although it gives more more total utility than diamonds, the marginal utility that diamonds give because they are few is higher than water. Kaya more expensive si diamonds, mas mura si water. Okay, next. Why is it wrong to say utility is maximized when the marginal utilities of all goods are exactly equal? Okay, Adrian.
Sir, it should be ano po, in consideration also nung sa cost of purchase. Kaya po dapat utility is maximized when the marginal utilities of all goods per cost or amount purchased are exactly equal.
Yeah, that's correct. Per unit cost. Okay. Utility is maximized when the marginal utilities per unit cost of all goods are exactly equal. So that should be the correct term. Okay. Thank you, Adrian. Next. Melissa buys an iPhone for 44,990 and gets a consumer surplus of 5,010. Okay. What is her willingness to pay? Okay, Zandra.
So Melissa's willingness to pay for an iPhone, sir, would be 50,000 because yung maximum price willing to pay by the consumer is minus po sa actual price paid. So plus po sa actual price na market. So 5,010 plus 44,990 equals to 50,000 po.
Yeah, that's correct because consumer surplus is simply consumer surplus is yung anong tawag dito? Yung maximum price that he is willing to pay minus the price. Okay, and CS is 5,010. Okay, and the willingness to pay minus 44,990. So yung willingness to pay niya is just simply 5,010 plus 44,990, which is 50,000. Okay, that's correct. Thank you. Let's have Hannah. If she had bought the iPhone on sale for 42,990, what would her consumer surplus have been?
From 5,010 po, yung consumer surplus po magiging 7,010 po.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Discussion. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sige, Zedrex, if the price of an iPhone were 69,990, what would her consumer surplus have been?
If the price is 69,990 pesos po, she would not have had a consumer surplus because she would not have bought the iPhone because it was above her willingness to pay.
Yeah, that's correct. It would be zero. Thank you. Nice. Let's proceed. Discussion question 2. 3. Ito. Fallacies na tayo. Okay? So, explain the fallacies in the following. Average costs are minimized when marginal costs are at their lowest point. Anyone would like to correct this fallacy? Tawag na lang ba ako? Okay. Raisa, tapos ka na. Sige, Jay. Let's have Jay.
Ano po, sir? Average costs are minimized kapag nasa minimum point po ang average cost kapag dun sila nag-meet ng marginal cost. So meaning po, hindi nasa lowest point yung marginal cost.
Yeah, so that's correct. So average costs are minimized when marginal cost is equal to the average cost. Okay, next. Thank you, Jay. Because fixed costs never change, average fixed cost is a constant for each level of output. Let's have Eliza. Then let's have, wait lang ha, tapusin ko lang. Let's have Eliza and then Dayan. Sino pa yung nag-raise kanina? And Janelle. Last one na lang. Hindi ko natawag. Zandra rin last. Okay. I hope you can na-remember nyo yung sequence. Pero sige, let's start with Eliza.
Sir, because fixed cost never change, average fixed cost is a constant for each level of output. It's wrong because yung ang constant po are fixed cost, and our average fixed costs are measured by dividing our total fixed cost by quantity. So it constantly decreases, and ang constant po ay yung fixed cost, not the average fixed cost.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's correct. Next. Sino ba yung tinawag ko? Janelle, tama ba Janelle? Ikaw yung kasunod? Or-
Ayan po ata yung next.
Sige, Dayan. Okay, average cost is rising whenever marginal cost is rising.
Ayan po sir, dito po sa fallacy nito, as marginal cost rises from its minimum and onwards po, the average total cost decreases, and it's because the average fixed cost is decreasing. That is why yung statement po is false.
So ano dapat? So if the statement is false, at what point is average cost rising?
When marginal costs rise.
Ito na yung sinabi eh. So I think, so let me just correct, no? Average, ang tamang statement dapat dito is average cost is rising whenever marginal cost is greater than average cost. Right? Because at the minimum, MC is equal to AC. But beyond that, MC is greater than AC and also AC is now rising. Okay. Hindi na natin makakover yung lahat. Sige, tapusin na lang natin 12:32 na. Tapusin na lang natin. Sige, sino yung next?
Ako po, sir.
Okay, Janelle. The opportunity cost of drilling for oil in a national heritage site is 0 because no firm produces anything there.
There can be negative externalities from doing this, such as affecting the location, which is highly valuable to some members of the community, because destroying a national heritage site might not add costs to the production of a business. However, there are certain costs to other people affected that are not accounted for by the firm, such as the loss of livelihood of tourist guides. Ganun po.
Yeah, that's correct. So another could be yung aesthetic value ng heritage site and yung value ng land. Okay. Okay. Sige. Last one, a firm, sino yung Zandra, last one. A firm minimizes costs when it spends the same amount on each output.
So this is a fallacy po, sir, because the marginal cost changes all the time. Individuals decide to create all of commodities po in large quantities where marginal cost is not equivalent, and the average total cost is up to the point po na yung price equal siya sa marginal cost. So individuals and mga firms po attempt to produce up to the curve despite the changing marginal cost. So as a result po, lahat ng expenses associated with each input will change, and the average total cost will be low, and production will be distributed around the curve with a wide range of marginal cost po. Hence, it is a fallacy.
Okay, so what should be the correct statement? A firm minimizes cost when
it spends na hindi po yung same amount, iba't ibang amount po for bawat na input.
Okay, so the firm minimizes cost when the marginal product, when the marginal product per dollar spent is equal for each input. Diba? Rule number 2. Okay, so your MPA over PA equal to MPL over PL. Okay, rule number 2. Okay, thank you everyone. My apologies for extending for 4 minutes. In discussion 4, walang question dito. Madali lang naman to, di ba? Just simply multiply the quantity of land times its price, and then that would give you your total fixed cost, your labor inputs times the wage, and that would give you your total variable cost. And then from there, you can be able to derive your averages and then your marginal cost. Okay, any questions pa? Before we proceed? Yes, Zandra?
Sure, just in case lang po, pwede po ba if may free time sa discussion class next, kung kailan po yung next na discussion class, if pwede lang po na kahit saglit matapos lang yung ibang discussion questions po na ma-answer niyo po, sir, if ever lang, baka may mga hindi pa po kasi natakal yung sa iba sa last items po.
Yeah, sure. You can actually email me as well kung if you have questions on the answers for some discussion questions na hindi natakal. Okay. Any questions pa before we end? Okay, Nan. Hope you'll be able to really maximize the reading break, and happy long weekend. Okay, see you on Thursday sa lecture class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you po, sir.